Let's go out on video chat now. The CFL's top insider from 3downnation.com, Justin Dunk, joins us today. JD, how are you, my friend?
Keeping well, fellas. What about you guys out on the prairies?
Well, actually, we're great. It's hot there. Torrey Gurley's flying in. He's landing and coming straight to the studio, so we're excited about that big weekend with TG. Hey, things could be a lot worse. And Justin, there's a lot of people that have chimed in with questions for you already from the viewers, so I can't wait to get to those. But for you, what's the latest in the CFL world as we sit here today?
Well, guys, to be honest, I was hoping that I might have some new news to report in terms of a season, but depending on people who you talk to throughout the league, it's all over the place. There are people that feel like there's a hub city model that could be on the verge of potentially going forward. And then you talk to people on the other side, and they say that potentially the league office or various teams across the league are hoping that it gets to a point from a safety standpoint that they could actually play games in their home stadium. So it seems to be split across the league, which is part of the issue you have in terms of formulating a singular mindset in a plan to at least give the players some idea of when a season could possibly take place in 2020.
Okay, well, now we can get into it because I see a lot of criticism to Randy Ambrosie where the players are saying, and past players, Sam Hurl said it Friday, other leagues are coming back. Why is not the CFL? And my first take on that is, let's wait till they actually come back first, until they actually hit the field. And then you can ask the CFL why they aren't. Because so far, it's just a lot of conjecture in a lot of leagues. And two, the backlash at the commissioner, particularly James Wilder, saying, I can't wait for you any longer, CFL, I'm retiring. If Randy was forced in a decision today, Justin, it would be that the season's canceled because they don't know how they're going to play, right? If he's forced into making a decision today, he'll say, we're not playing. But he's trying to save the season. That's my read on it. What's yours?
Well, it might not even be his decision to make because he has 9 owners, or essentially bosses, plus a board of governors to please, and that all have to be on the same page. That's the real difficulty here, is that you have a number of owners that have agreed and that would play in a hub city concept, the gigantic bubble that Randy Ambrosie has explained. You have other owners that want to play home games in their home stadiums still, even at this point in the pandemic. So you just have all of these differing opinions, and it's very difficult for Ambrosie to be able to get them to come together so that he can ultimately come out publicly and make a decision. I do believe that there are some players, at least on the CFLPA, that understand the difficulty that Ambrosie is in, because he has to please everyone and make sure everyone is on board, from the board of governors and the owners, before he can make a decision to move forward. So for as much backlash as there have been, and yes, the leadership by Ambrosie himself has been questioned, and I believe rightfully so, he's also in a very difficult position here. So to me, that's the main issue, but time is running out for the league overall, guys, to make a decision.
Well, yes, and one of our viewers, Garnet Elmer, writes in, he's a good man from North Battleford. He says, truth equals science. Trust Ambrosie and be patient. But I will respectfully say, when you haven't missed a paycheck through all this, it's easy to say. You talk about times running out. There's no checks distributed to players. I said 3 months ago careers are going to end, and now they are, and people seem stunned. Like James Wilder's giving up on his dream. So to be a government worker that hasn't missed a check, I'm sorry, you don't have the same pressures that a CFL player has right now, or a coach, because you're worried about the future of the league. So I guess on that, with the Wilder announcement yesterday that he's retiring, shouldn't have surprised anybody, Justin, but it seems to have taken a lot of people by surprise.
It really did. And that was surprising to me because you look at, let's say your average CFL player salary is somewhere in and around $80,000 to $90,000. The quarterbacks are in their own stratosphere, but those guys are on a budget just like you, me, and everybody else. And they budget to the point where they're going to get to that first regular season game, which as in a quote normal year would be in June. So a lot of those players are feeling the pressure as to, what do I do? You can see if you go to Darvin Adams on Instagram, the star Winnipeg Blue Bombers receiver, that he's gone into the home rental business, and it's something that he'll likely carry on after his career. But he's laying tile and doing renovations to make sure he has money coming in. And that guy is a player that is earning, well north of six figures. He's probably in the $150,000 range. So across the spectrum, especially the low earning players, you're going to have them wondering, all right, what do I have to do literally to put food on the table, Roddy? And I think your point is well taken there. Even though your viewers want to see CFL football, you have to realize that if the checks aren't coming in, the players have to find some way to provide for their families.
Yes, and there are people that feel everybody should be treated equally. So if that's the case, start distributing checks to CFL players and they can wait as long as they want. And that has not happened yet. There's a lot of people across this country that doesn't want to see the CFL nor its players get government handouts. So what is your answer to that? That's what I would like to know. By the way, John in Winnipeg writes in, he says, take a knee, CFL. Riders will lose $10 million this year. What about that shot that was heard across the Canada last night? The Riders announcing that if they don't play, they'll lose $10 million. And this is the biggest, grimmest financial situation the franchise has ever seen. Justin, did that resonate in your circles?
It did, and I hate to say it, but it was expected, right? And we've heard the numbers being bandied around that the league as a whole, all the teams combined together, if they don't play in 2020, the financial losses could total up to $100 million. So that makes a lot of sense when the Riders are saying we're bracing for this $10 million loss. It's a financial reality that these teams are accepting because there's essentially no revenues coming in. That means that you're just going to have mostly losses on your accounting book.
Well, one viewer in Edmonton, John, says, can you ask Justin how he feels about the CEBL coming back, but the CFL's not? You saw the CEBL announced its year-end tournament. There's a team in your backyard, actually a few teams in your backyard there. Justin, I look at that as completely different business models. The players aren't getting paid. The rosters are not to the degree of the CFL. The rosters are half the size. It's apples and oranges. How would you answer that question, though?
Agreed. Totally different. You look at the size of a basketball team, you might have max 15 players and some coaches. And if you can create a bubble there in an area where the cases are really going down in St. Catharines, and even you get up into that Hamilton area too, I think that they can do it much more safely. You're talking about a football team in the CFL that hasn't even started training camp yet, right? So normally, you guys well know, you're bringing about 100 players, potentially, just players, to training camp to try to get down to your final roster. So even from that standpoint, you add up all of those CEBL teams, that's probably about the amount of players you're going to be bringing to St. Catharines for this tournament. So it's just two totally different situations. I get that there could be some frustrations, and some people have pointed to the Canadian Premier League, the soccer league that's only been in existence for 1 year, that they have a plan already to move forward. But again, there are much less moving parts and pieces there, especially the number of players.
Any buzz on the university sports front, by the way, Justin? Because I'm hearing very little, and maybe this is what the university presidents and deans wanted. Oh, we'll just put up with the backlash at the start, then it'll go quiet, because that seems to be what's happened. What are you hearing?
What I've heard is that there are coaches throughout the country that are looking to, if they can in a safe manner, play exhibition games and at least keep their teams together and get some film, especially for those guys going into their draft years. And that the RSEQ is holding out hope that they can have a smaller, potentially regular season. I think ideally they would want to have an 8-game regular season because they have a TV deal in Quebec that actually nets those teams money. So they want to try to get on the field if they can safely. And if they need to, they'll go down to 5 games in the RSEQ. But obviously, it's still uncertain with what could happen with COVID-19.
Well, with Canada West, and you're a broadcaster out here in this conference, are they talking about all teams playing? And I ask because Jim Mullen was on here last week, President of Football Canada, saying if some teams play, but not every team, non-sanctioned games, it doesn't do the sport any good. What are you hearing about in Western Canada?
The University of Alberta has already said none of their athletics teams are going to play, so it necessarily wouldn't be every team. The one intriguing part that I heard is that, Simon Fraser might look actually to get into some of these exhibition games because they would have difficulty crossing the border and coming back week in and week out to potentially play their schedule. So they're talking about it, but again, safety is going to be the number one priority.
Furthermore, John in Edmonton says, Justin Dunk is the man. He needs a podcast. And if he does, I haven't heard about it.
We used to have a 3 Down Nation podcast that was running weekly. We are in the works of bringing it back, but we want to make sure that it's top notch and it's consistent. So Drew Edwards, who got the site started, has moved on to other things. A guy that taught me a lot, and we did the podcast every week. So we'll talk about getting it up and going again.
Sounds good. How is our boy Drew doing? I miss him.
He's doing well. I mean, it's too bad with COVID-19. He had some travel plans to go abroad with his family, more specifically his daughter, but those got shut down. So, I mean, he's happy and healthy in Guelph, but hopefully he can sort of take advantage of some of those travel plans once COVID clears, but who knows what's going to happen.
Oh, I know, but I think he was in Mexico, stranded in Mexico for a time when this hit, correct? Yeah.
He was, and the family got back and did the self-isolation and all that.
Our Alan, the intern, the Asian sensation, has a name for your podcast. Slam Dunk. What do you think?
I'm down with it, but I want it to be a little more hype, because people are going to call me that anyways. They're going to say, hey, Slam Dunk. We maybe even play off the dunk a little bit, right?
I like mine. CFL News runs on Duncan. I like it, man. Maybe sponsored by...
That's what I'm talking about, a little play on words.
Exactly. Yeah. All right, JD, I'll see you in the press box tonight with Dupes for CFL Sim there at Tim Hortons Field.
Yeah, guys, I just want to get one more thing in quickly because the biggest story, I believe, of the week in Canadian football is Tavius Robinson, the University of Guelph defensive lineman, verbally committing to Ole Miss University. So he goes from Guelph to the SEC, but I wanted to get this nugget in just for you guys because what I have heard is that now that he's given the verbal commitment to Ole Miss, other SEC teams are jumping in. And from my sources, I've been told that LSU head coach Ed Orgeron has actually talked to, of course, on video chat, Tavius Robinson to try to sway his decision to get him go and join the Tigers down in the Bayou. It is an all-out slugfest for this Guelph native, a potential rising star in the SEC, guys.
There's nobody else better in America? The Tigers won the Natty last year. That's unbelievable. That is a big scoop. Are you going to have the details on 3 Down?
Well, we had his verbal commitment, so it seems like he's sticking with it. But, I mean, when you have a guy like Ed Orgeron on the phone trying to convince you to come to the Bayou, national champs, all the guys they had drafted in the NFL draft, and he wants a kid from Guelph, Ontario, you better listen. And there's other SEC teams jumping in, too.
Wow. If you can understand him over Zoom. Can you imagine all that?
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers. All right. Thanks, Justin.
Cheers, guys. Stay safe out there.
Justin Dunk joining us. More scoops than Ben and Jerry's with Justin Dunk. You like that one, eh, Greg? Have you guys watched Jerry Maguire yet?
We need it on the couch, the camera.
Yeah, we get these guys. There's no way of getting the camera on the interns, is there?
Hook up my phone.
That would be great.
You're watching Rod Pedersen On Demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.